Everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I am an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And I'm here today to talk about the astrological transits that will be happening during the month of October 2022. And what a month it will be. We talk a lot about these astrological dynamics creating a lot of in some ways disruptive energy, but I want to offer it this way because I think some of this disruptive energy should be referred to as divine disruption. But before I go into the month's transits, let me do a little bit of business. First of all, I do my videos based on whole sign Western astrology. I believe that the moon is an extremely important planet. If you don't know your moon sign, there are free birth calculators on the internet. You just need to know your time of birth and obviously place and date of birth, and you can determine what that is. I think this is super important because the moon rules our nurturing of ourselves, how we view our emotional body, the permissions we give ourselves within our emotional body. And that is the seedling, the akin, the platform with which we manifest. If we're feeling challenged, if we're feeling a lack of confidence or insecurity, that is a vibration. So being aware of your emotional body is super helpful. I also think that the rising sign is important because it's our perception. It's how we view the world. It's the permissions we give ourselves to be brave, or whether or not we feel we must follow the rules as they are laid out for us. Then we have our sun sign. I believe that's how others view us, how we project ourselves out into the world. And then there are stelliums. A stellium is 3 or more planets. A lot of stricter astrologers will say 4 planets within one sign or house. I think that it's important to pay attention if these are personal planets or outer planets. Outer planets move slowly, they're generational. So I don't know if I would put as much emphasis on those planets in a stellium, but personal planets, Mercury, Venus, Mars, the moon, Jupiter and Saturn, all those planets I would pay attention to, because if there are 3 or more within one sign or house, this indicates a soul's focus and intention for this lifetime. So let's jump into October. October is going to see 3 planets moving forward and the beginning of eclipse season. Eclipses are fated events. And when I say fated, I don't mean that we are destined to experience something difficult as much as I believe the fated event is a fork in the road, potentially a milestone that we get to experience within the human body to make a choice based on an inner knowing, on a soul dynamic, on a broader scale than what our human life would have us believe, our limitations. So we have had 6 planets and then Chiron all retrograde. We are currently, as I film this, it's September 29th, 2022, and Mercury is currently retrograde and will be going direct, stationing to go direct on the 2nd of October. Mercury rules information. Mercury is the planet that runs around the zodiac, giving little bits of information. It's kind of those, it would rule Twitter, it would rule TikTok, not long pieces of information, but little bits of information. It rules the way we think, we speak, what we read about, how we teach. It rules children. It rules, Mercury rules both Gemini and Virgo. So the dynamics, it rules our teammates, our workmates, our sidewalks, how we drive on the road. And so this is a very important planet to pay attention to. And from my intuitive perception, Mercury's most important dynamics are how I think, because how I think is what I believe. My words indicate my beliefs, and my beliefs dictate my actions. So having Mercury retrograde in the sign of Libra and then moving back into Virgo, it's in Virgo now, and then it will move forward back into Libra. This really gives me an opportunity to think about Where have I enslaved myself? Where have I obligated myself? This would be the Virgo dynamic. And where have I implemented processes that may have worked at one point, but are they still working for me? Are they still aligning me to what I want to experience on the planet? Because as Mercury moves into Libra, we are going to get a more Venusian feel. We're going to get a feeling of thinking about, what do I want in the way of my partnerships? What do I want to experience in the way of harmony and peace and enjoying a give and take? In some ways, maybe even a bit of an idealistic way of thinking, but yet at the same time, that idealism, given enough focused thought, gets an opportunity to root in the physical experience, which will then allow others who experience your life, they'll say, well, why? How do you do that during these challenging times? So I really believe that Mercury's transit through Virgo right now and back into Libra is giving us an opportunity to purport diplomatic thoughts, to allow ourselves to see that enjoyment, Venusian things, music, good food, they feed our partnerships. They nurture our partnerships. And I want to offer this too, because I don't think that the dynamics of peace and harmony and diplomacy come always because I am engaged in that with another. I think oftentimes it comes from my willingness to be those energies in order to foster them around me. So I think Mercury right now is super important, as it's giving us an opportunity to really revisit how we think. And I want to offer it this way as well, because on the 8th, Pluto, the planet of transformation, death and rebirth, other people's money, inheritances, taxes, how other people have power and control over us. It rules sex, Pluto does. So it's going to move forward, and it will be making, while Mercury goes through Libra, it will eventually make a square to Mercury in transit. I believe that this is an opportunity to really look at Pluto from a transformational place. Anything that may feel like it's dying off, anything that has been feeling like it's dying off, could potentially be an illusion that's been holding you back. If you've been dependent upon somebody else's resources for your livelihood, it could potentially bring energies in that are offering you your own personal empowerment and your own personal experience of feeling influential in your own life. I believe that Scorpio and Pluto in and of itself are very, very deep planets of psychological entrapment. And I want to offer it this way, because the human is trained from a very early age to please others, to focus on other people's wants and desires over our own. And I think that this, is kind of not serving the human, because it's teeing us up to feel restricted. And as we give ourselves permissions to be ourselves, to foster and nurture our own wants and desires, then we truly give that invitation to others to join us. So I think that the idea that Pluto and Mercury are both going direct, and while they're not currently making or having an intense conversation, they are giving us an opportunity to really transform how we're thinking. And if we are being fair to ourselves within our relations with others, because I want to offer it this way too. Venus in Taurus will rule money, family, history, food, our relationship with food, our relationship with money, our relationship with our own voice. So all these things come into play when Venus, when we see this Libra energy, when we're in this Libra energy, because Venus co-rules Libra. On the 9th of October, we will see a full moon in Aries, which will be the culmination of a cycle that started back in April with the new moon in Aries. This is also when Pluto started its retrograde back into Capricorn. And a lot of these retrogrades, 6 planets retrograde plus Chiron, we've been experiencing them for most of this year, at least a majority of the year. I'm going to do a separate video on the full moon in Aries. So I'm going to go right to the next day when Mercury will be entering Libra. This will really actually lift the energy quite a bit. It'll feel lighter. It'll feel, I might be thinking about more pleasurable things as well. On the 22nd, we will see the Sun and Venus conjunct in Libra. And this is a real warm, fuzzy energy. The Sun is about things growing. Venus is about beauty and comfort and enjoyment. Venus is in her domicile. She's going to be there for most of this month before she goes into Scorpio on the 23rd. And the Sun will go into Scorpio on the 23rd, and Saturn will turn direct, station to go direct in Aquarius. I think this is really powerful because this is Saturn's, not only will it go direct in Aquarius, it will be making its final square and has been making its final square to Uranus in Taurus. There is a dynamic between Saturn and Uranus that is cooperative. They both rule Aquarius. Aquarius by nature is independent. It is a pioneer in its own way because it's innovative. It moves into areas that are technologically new discoveries. It rules space. It also rules our networks of friends. It rules the internet, meaning the big World Wide Web. It rules our hopes and our dreams, and it rules money, our ability to make money. So I think that seeing Saturn go direct and making its final square, at least until 2043 with Uranus, is going to truly give us an opportunity to revisit our history, to look at the structures that work for us, and in some ways, the structures that repress us or hold us back and liberate us from this. This is the 4th time over the last couple of years that Saturn and Uranus have made this square. And intuitively, I believe a square sort of is like this tense conversation between a concept, a new idea of myself, and an old idea of how I've been operating, and the incorporation of those two things, and our tendency to fall back into habits. So as we liberate ourselves from those habits and we give ourselves permission to start to use Saturn's energy to be determined to build a new structure that's more viable for the evolved version of your life, you, and the things that you want. I think this is so important. And then on the 25th, we will have our first eclipse, well, not the first one of the year, but the first of 2. We'll start with this partial solar eclipse on the 25th, which will be in Scorpio at 2 degrees, which I think is very powerful because it's an exact month since we had the new moon in Libra on September 25th at 2 degrees. So there's something about that 2nd degree that makes me feel like it's about revisiting how I work with others, the power I have within those partnerships. What do I believe about my ability to create? An eclipse brings in fated events. And as I referred to, I believe earlier, maybe I didn't, but I will now, I believe that an eclipse, a fated event, is a fork in the road. A situation transpires that I cannot manage, I can't control, but I do get my perception and how I view it. And if for some reason it brings forth, because Scorpio rules transformation, sometimes it feels like something is dying off, but oftentimes in order for new life to grow, something must transform. The caterpillar cannot remain the caterpillar and be the butterfly at the same time. So the appearance of the caterpillar dying is really a transformation and a freedom to a new level of creation. So I'm going to do a separate video for the eclipse, as I think it's that important. But with Saturn turning direct and the Sun and Venus entering Scorpio, this is all going to line up with this eclipse. All this, especially the Sun and Venus, will be hanging out around this eclipse. Well, obviously the Sun will. Hello, duh. We have on the 28th of October, Jupiter has been retrograde in Aries, and it will finally move into Pisces. It'll go all the way to 28 degrees in Pisces before it moves forward again back into Aries. And that's not going to happen until November. But what we'll see is Jupiter really starting to expand. And I want to offer it this way because it could expand a couple ways. It could make you want to escape your life. The events that transpire around the eclipse. And eclipses have a 6-month influence, so it may not happen on the day of the eclipse, but you may start to see evidence of change. And Jupiter is going to ask you what do you believe? Are you allowing for the evolvement of your beliefs? It can also exasperate things. You could feel more wanting to escape. You might want to, take in the spirits a little bit more, or you may want to, I don't know, you may find yourself a little bit more spendy, wanting to, having sort of the illusion of things. I kind of want to put it this way. Jupiter moving back into Pisces and creeping up against Neptune may make us feel we might want to shop more or eat more or drink more, just because it's a form of escapism. It's a form of providing comfort for the self when we feel a bit uncomfortable. Because I do think this energy is rubbing right up against Mars about to go retrograde in Gemini. Now, we've been seeing Mars transiting Gemini for a while now, and it's going to get all the way up to 25 degrees before it goes retrograde. And I think this could potentially really spike anger and frustration. People who have been walking a kind of a tightrope of trying to hold it together might inadvertently lose it and get very angry. So I think it's super important to pay attention to where this is in your chart. For me, it's in the 3rd house. I'm an Aries rising, so it's in its natural place. And I have seen and witnessed so much random anger, which has made people act out. And in being aware of that, it has actually helped me purport a more peaceful vibration. And this is the beauty of having these planets going back and forth, because the first time they retrograde, we sort of are just being introduced to an idea or an energy. As we move back and forward, we're getting more and more opportunities to implement and integrate that energy. So Mars in its highest vibration is the hero. It's brave, it's courageous, it is a pioneering energy. So when we look at the dynamics of going back and forth in Gemini, which is the ruled by Mercury, what am I thinking? How am I responding? Am I hanging on to old stories that don't serve me? Am I holding on to resentments that don't serve me? Personally, when I was introduced to Eckhart Tolle and The Power of Now, which was, I believe, his first book, I was blown away by how much time I spent by myself being angry at people that weren't even around. And I was now the criminal in my own life because I was eating up my life by hanging on to resentments or hanging on to anger that wasn't serving me and it wasn't changing the situation. So I believe that as we get into, having this eclipse in some ways bring about events that may illuminate how I'm participating in my own discomfort, or how I may be perpetrating onto myself without realizing it, energies that don't serve me because I'm not able to integrate the experience and have it work for me. So that's super important. And I'm going to do, again, a separate video on the Mars retrograde because it's going to have influence until all the way into March 2023. Technically, Mars will go direct in January. And yet the shadow period is going to really bring about more disruptive energy. I want to offer it that way. And I really want to kind of, those of you that are hearing this, you have so much potential to be powerful within these situations. Within being aware of the astrological dynamics will help you to put them in their proper place. So you don't have to react. You can choose how you act, which is why I think Mercury is so important, because this Mercury retrograde has given us an opportunity to see where our focus has gone, where our thoughts have gone, and do they serve me or do they stoke my anger and my frustration? On the 29th of the month, we'll see Mercury enter Scorpio. And this is going to be very interesting because as Mercury enters Scorpio, it will meet the South Node. And we will talk more about that in the November broadcast. But it will give us an opportunity to go another level deeper into our thought process. Scorpio is a very psychological sign. It really knows how to dig deep, and it wants to excavate and transform the toxic energy into our lives to now serve us versus just tanking us and poisoning us. So as you walk through this month and you see the planetary changes, because I think one of the things you'll feel straight up is as Saturn starts to move direct, you may feel a lightening of energy, meaning the energy feels like it's lighter. Versus this blanket of heaviness. So it's a very, very big month. We're going to see November, we'll see Jupiter going direct. We'll start to see the square between Uranus and Saturn. Hopefully that will start to separate for its final time. So we'll really be able to coagulate and integrate and implement what we have discovered about ourselves, where we have liberated ourselves through that period of time. And then in December, we'll see Neptune start moving back direct in Pisces. So this end of this 2022 is really very powerful in its, I almost want to go back to the idea of 2022, all those twos giving me an opportunity to really come into cooperation with my personality and my soul, not other people outside, but me. And the integration of those two things makes me a very powerful co-creator and starts to transform this planet in the thing that becomes a lot more fun, because I start to see how any challenges are actually serving me. They're empowering me to feel more resourceful, more confident, more sure-footed as I move forward. So that's it for my October. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you will join me on Sunday mornings live at 11 a.m. Pacific time when we look at the week's transits and we get advice from the angels. I do readings every week. If you'd like to book a reading with me, my information is below. Just send me an email and we can set something up. And please like, please subscribe, please share, and feel free to comment. I'd love to hear how you've been experiencing all these transits. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And thank you for watching, everybody.